Why Yu Menglong's death terrifies Xi Jinping. When news of Yu Menglong's death first broke, many saw only tragedy. An artist silenced, a conspiracy unleashed, tears raining across social media. But hidden beneath the sorrow and outrage lies a deeper terror. The death of Yu Menglong threatens to unravel the delicate power Xi Jinping has so meticulously constructed. In the wake of the interrogation leaks, the hospital videos, the hidden contracts, and the whispers of higher powers, Xi's fear is not of a single star's fall. It is of what truths that star has exposed. The stage of power. In China, controlling the narrative is not optional, it is survival. Xi Jinping's regime relies on stability, on certainty, on the illusion that dissent is extinguished before it glimmers. When an artist like Yu Menglong dies under such shocking, unresolved circumstances, the regime's veneer cracks. Lay's Real Talk, in its episode, Why Yu Menglong's Death Terrifies Xi Jinping, argues that the regime sees this as more than a scandal, it's a symbolic threat. An actor, with millions of fans and digital reach, becomes a living trigger. If millions believe the regime could be implicated, even by whispers and shadows, then the state's claim to moral and political control trembles. The power of the undead voice. What terrifies Xi most is that Yu Menglong's voice, even beyond his death, remains alive. The leaked interrogations, recordings, hospital camera clips, they aren't just evidence. They are digital resurrection. No regime can kill a memory, especially one that speaks in leaks. Each new revelation fans public anger. Each photograph of the hospital, every transcript, every whisper of "tell them I tried," becomes a weapon turned inward. When the manager confesses slavery, when the video reveals gloved hands moving his body, Xi's apparatus of censorship and image control is exposed as brittle. Generals and bureaucrats watching. Within the regime's internal circles, the spectacle has sent shockwaves. The military and security elite have long watched Xi's consolidation of power. They see this case not just as a cultural mess, but as a test of control. Rumors spread among generals. Can the party truly suppress all questions? If the public can sense the lies, the silence, the erasure, even when cameras blink, then who can be trusted? One Chinese analyst on Lay's show highlights that a regime built on fear fears contagion of doubt more than noise itself. If his followers believe the regime is fallible, the gap between control and chaos narrows. The international stage and diplomacy. Xi's China is always watching the world's eyes. The West, the UN, neighboring powers. A high-profile death full of unanswered questions becomes diplomatic ammunition. Foreign governments, human rights organizations, independent media, all point at this case as proof of oppression, cover-ups, and systemic injustice. In Lay's Real Talk special, one clip titled "Foreign Diplomats and CCP Officials Send Signals" implies that the Menglong case is not just internal, it is a foreign relations headache for Xi's image. How can the regime justify soft power when its own citizens chant for truth in candlelight? The crack in the narrative. Xi's legitimacy is built on narratives. Economic miracle, social harmony, national rebirth. A death like Menglong's punctures that illusion. If elites conspire to silence voices, then progress is hollow. If artists vanish, then culture isn't free. If justice is selective, then loyalty becomes fear, not love. In previous stories you've woven, the contracts, the hidden clauses, the secret meeting on the rooftop, they form threads of a pattern. One star's death is not isolated, but integral to the machinery that thrives in darkness. If audiences begin to see the pattern, the narrative of the regime fractures. The terrifying precedent. What happens if the regime cannot contain this story? Other stars, intellectuals, independent voices see a precedent. They will feel empowered to test the lines. Xi fears the leak becomes a blueprint. A blueprint that says, even within the wall of censorship, voices can pry cracks. In the alternate timelines your past stories hint at, the hidden files, the interrogation leaks, the hospital whispers, Xi's fear is that the fall of Yu Menglong is not an isolated event, but an acceleration point. The final act of control. In desperation, Xi will try to reclaim control. He will clamp tighter on media, purge those suspected of leaks, scapegoat the manager and silent higher-ups, project fear. But every clamp, every purge, plays into the narrative. They fear what you can say. In the history you've created, the regime may imprison the manager, may silence the woman in beige, but it cannot erase the digital ghost that is Yu Menglong's truth. Because the footage, the whispers, the leaks, they belong to the public now. Closing. Xi Jinping's greatest fear isn't scandal. It's belief. The belief that one man, cursed by lies and betrayal, can still speak louder than their silence. The belief that the regime, for all its power, can be questioned. The belief that in death, a star can become a spear, piercing through fear and propelling truth outward. And if that belief spreads, then the tyrant's walls may crumble. The panic within the palace. Hours after the new leak broke, a convoy of black cars sped through Zongnanhai's eastern gate. No reporters, no schedule, no sound. Inside, the Politburo Standing Committee sat in silence. Screens flickered with social media charts, hashtags climbing, foreign outlets translating, millions of comments repeating one forbidden name, Yu Menglong. Xi Jinping leaned forward. The room was heavy with the smell of burnt tea and panic. Delete everything, a voice ordered. We tried, said another. But it multiplies. Every time a video is erased, 10 more appear. Someone whispered the word ghost. They weren't speaking about superstition. They meant a digital phantom. Yu Menglong's face, his trembling eyes, his final recordings had become a ghost the regime couldn't exorcise. The servers that wouldn't die. Beijing's Cybersecurity Bureau launched what insiders later called Operation Erase. Overnight, hundreds of engineers were summoned, ordered to scrub every trace of Yu's name from mainland servers. Yet something uncanny happened. Even after deletion, his files reappeared, reposted from mirror sites, encrypted drives, foreign platforms. A young engineer told her supervisor, trembling, "Sir, it's like the data is alive." The more they tried to erase him, the louder his memory screamed back. And with every digital resurrection, Xi's fear deepened. The return of the candlelight. In Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Chengdu, anonymous posts began to call for candle night. At 9 p.m., thousands of users switched their profile photos to black candles. Police traced the accounts, but each time they closed one, 100 new appeared. Outside Beijing Film Academy, students placed white chrysanthemums by the gate. Drones hovered above, but no one dispersed. A single voice broke the silence. He just wanted to be free. Those 6 words trended across Weibo before censors could react. The Ministry of Propaganda sent directives banning the phrase from public media. Yet in private chats, millions repeated it like prayer. She watched reports come in. The people were grieving, yes, but they were also awakening. The foreign firestorm. While domestic platforms burned, Western media seized the story. CNN ran headlines about state interference. The BBC aired documentaries recreating Yu Menglong's final 72 hours. Human rights groups demanded inquiry. In one leaked diplomatic cable, a senior advisor wrote, "We cannot control the foreign narrative. Every denial strengthens the suspicion. Even Chinese diplomats abroad reported being ambushed with questions about you." For the first time in years, the regime wasn't dictating the story, it was chasing it. Inside the secret meeting. 2 days later, a clandestine meeting was held at an underground facility near Fangshan. Present were Xi Jinping, the Minister of Public Security, and 2 intelligence chiefs. A giant screen showed Lei's Real Talk channel replaying a segment titled, "The Death They Can't Explain." Each word translated live into Mandarin subtitles. "Shut that channel down," she snapped. "Impossible," replied one official. "It's hosted abroad. Even our cyber division can't reach it without international backlash." Xi's hand clenched the table. "Then drown it. Flood the net with distractions. News scandals. Celebrities. Anything." They nodded, and by morning, state-owned tabloids were filled with glittering gossip, sudden patriotic stories, fabricated heroics. Yet still, under the noise, whispers of Yu Menglong pulsed like heartbeat. The woman who wouldn't be silent. At the same time, a familiar figure reemerged, Yu Menglong's mother. Despite surveillance, she appeared on an unverified live stream. Tears streaked her cheeks as she held up a worn USB drive, the one her son once hid from his manager. Her voice shook, but did not break. He told me once, "If anything happens to me, promise you'll not be afraid." The stream was cut within minutes, but clips flooded Telegram and X. Analysts later confirmed that short speech ignited the largest wave of online protests since the case began. For Xi, it wasn't only an emotional problem, it was a symbolic collapse. If a grieving mother could outshine state media, then no fortress of propaganda was safe. The sleepless president. Insiders whispered that Xi Jinping hadn't slept that night. Surveillance reports piled on his desk. University unrest, canceled concerts, actor withdrawals. Advisors begged him to issue a final statement. But what could he say? Denying too strongly meant admitting fear. Admitting sympathy meant conceding guilt. So he stayed silent, hoping time would suffocate the story. Yet silence only made the noise louder. The elite panic. In Zhongshan Villa, retired officials gathered for tea, an informal council of men who once helped build the party's media empire. One murmured, "We spent 40 years crafting control. One boy and a camera destroyed it in months." Another replied coldly, "Not destroyed, expose." They knew what she feared, that Yu's death might inspire something uncontrollable. Artists, influencers, and even small-town bloggers were beginning to ask dangerous questions. If truth could trend, then power could tremble. The Forbidden Documentary. Weeks later, a mysterious short film appeared on a foreign site, The Ghost of Stage 13. It showed never-before-seen footage from Yu's last shoot, intercut with real court documents and blurred confessions. Authorities labeled it fake, but experts traced the metadata to a government computer, meaning someone from inside leaked it. That was the breaking point. She ordered a total internal audit of every communication line. 2 officials vanished overnight. Rumors said one of them had tried to deliver evidence to Hong Kong. For the first time, it wasn't foreign critics that scared Xi Jinping. It was betrayal from within. The shadow statement. Then, unexpectedly, a state broadcaster released a brief midnight segment. After thorough investigation, the party reaffirms commitment to justice in all matters, including the recent entertainment incident. They never said Yu Menglong's name, but everyone knew. To the regime, this was a closing remark. To the people, it was confession by omission. Because when power refuses to name its crime, silence itself becomes evidence. The world watches. By dawn, the message reached global screens. The comments flooded in. They're scared. He didn't die for nothing. Truth doesn't need permission. Meanwhile, fans gathered in Urumqi, lighting candles near his resting place. Their voices trembled in the cold night. We remember. And far away, in Beijing's sealed office, she watched through a private feed, candles flickering, names trending, hearts still breaking. For the first time, he realized, fear is not control. Because even in silence, Yu Menglong still speaks.